definitely everybody can get themselves out of their limiting beliefs. It's actually about spending the time to invest in yourself to find out what they are. They're all patterns of behavior that if we don't do, we say we're going to do something and then we don't. So, well, why didn't we? And then why didn't, if you ask yourself why at least 3 or 4 times in a row, you'll usually get to the source of a limiting belief, right? And so it will be, well, I wanted to, but I didn't because, and then I'll go and ask my clients, well, why? And they'll go, well, because I don't think I have the confidence, or I don't think I have enough money, or I don't think I'd be very good at it, or I think people would laugh at me.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mind to Lead podcast. And today I'm extremely honoured as I'm sat down with a beautiful woman, Annie Gibbins. Annie is passionate about helping women achieve success, balance and clarity in their lives. She's all about helping them thrive in life and business. She is a speaker, coach and an author of her new book, Becoming Annie. Annie, amazing to have you here today.
Thanks so much. I'm delighted to be joining you. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can feel the energy. So, Annie, let's kick off with just, for people that don't know who you are, I certainly follow you on LinkedIn and I'm a big fan. So tell us a little about who is Annie, and yeah, maybe you can just almost give us the whole book, because what's it taken to become Annie?
That's right. I know the other day I got called the Annie. I went, oh, that's so weird. So exactly. So I do have a new book called Becoming Annie, the biography of a curious woman. So I suppose that came about by unpacking, 50 years of my life, of the opportunities that I have chosen to be curious rather than sort of have more sort of adversity or seeing things as obstacles. And so I suppose my curious nature has helped me to get to where I am today. So I suppose where I am at the moment, before we unpack all of that, is that I sort of have 2 hats, or multiple hats, as many women do have. So I'm the CEO of an eye health charity called Glaucoma Australia. And then I also am CEO and founder of AnnieGibbins.com. So I'm CEO of Lipstick Consulting is my business. And I have the great joy of mentoring and coaching women from around the globe through my Magic Transformation course. And so that has just been my joy over the last 6 years. Obviously, my day job is as well. But I get to meet so many women at different stages of their lives, different challenges, and pretty much I help them make their next step. What's their next step of success, balance and happiness in business and life? So Magic Transformation has a personal side and it also has a professional side. Most people do both. And we spend a year together really just encouraging each other. We've got a tribe. We really sort of don't accept anything as an obstacle. It's pretty much put yourself out there, put it out to the universe, definitely to the tribe, and then find ways of making things happen. So my magic ethos is make the impossible possible. And a lot of that comes down to, just having healthy, intentional actions that you do every single day. And that classic view of, your daily habits do dictate your future. They so do. And so it's an accountability and cheerleader mix that I have with my clients. And I just get to see them grow in leaps and bounds. And I pretty much just get to see people smile and do high fives and woohoo. And that's wonderful. That's what I love doing. I love empowering and encouraging women globally for their next step. And it doesn't matter what that is.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. And I'm curious as well, because the Magic Transformation sounds absolutely fantastic. And I think it's so necessary, because where I think a lot of people, and I'll put my hand up and say that I was here as well, is that I knew I wanted to go to the next level. I knew I wanted to take a next step. I knew I wanted to start something, but I had no idea where to start. So if you, let's just say, there's a woman listening to this right now and she wants to start something new, but where do you begin? Where does that whole transformation start? What's the process?
Okay. So pretty much it's trying to work out what is your vision, what is your dream, what do you actually want. And then we unpack it from there. A lot of people hope that they will then find things. You do something and then you hope it leads to something else and lead to something else, and you're pretty much just swaying in the wind. You're letting opportunity dictate what your outcome is. If I joined the gym now and committed to daily exercise or weekly exercise or whatever, that would maybe work initially, and then it will wean off because you don't know what you're going to do. But if I said, I've got a party at the end of the year and I want to wear this certain dress and I want to have this certain look and feel and confidence and everything that comes with it, I'll more likely achieve it. So for what I do is I unpack with the women in my world, what do they actually want? You know, we need to be bold enough to step out and ask for what you want rather than asking for what you think you'll receive. It's actually allowing yourself or giving permission to have a bigger mindset, to actually try and work out what you want. If you don't know what you want, then of course in my program and we will unpack, well, what are your gifts, your talents, your natural attributes? What makes you smile? What makes you get excited and breathe calmly and be energized? Usually those things are in your natural default sort of personality or nature. And sometimes they are your strength, but you've been told to tone them down because sometimes they can be overwhelming, right? I got told my entire childhood to stop talking. And then now I'm quite comfortable talking in front of thousands of people, you know. So sometimes it's the way you do it, or why did people tell you not to act on your natural gifts and talents? And then I'm a big believer of, well, let's work out what your strengths are and push those strengths and elevate them to the next level. We can work out the weaknesses later or we can outsource them. But how do you work out, have confidence? There's 100% confidence and clarity on what your strengths are so that they can go towards your future vision, which you have to have. It has to be intentional. Every day has to be intentional with what you want to achieve, you know, and there's stepping stones. And when you do it this sort of way, you're not looking for a lot. I think a lot of people think they've got to do something amazing. They've got to do this big leap. And then that's right. Like you were saying, Georgie, you don't know all the steps. You know, I mean, I've had a lady reach out to me lately who said, I want to start a charity, you know, and where she can join a program like mine and I'll have the kit A to Z of how to do a charity. But it's not, so it's one, knowing the requirements, and then two, it's being supported and encouraged on how to actually do that. In what order? What are the learning experiences? How does that happen? Or if you're going for a job, you know, or a career advancement, being in an environment that you can do a pitch to people who practice that pitch, to people who would actually give you honest feedback. So there's so many ways that women can learn to know what do they want, and then when they know what they want, it's then getting in the right tribe to actually find they can get the resources, they can get the skills, they can get the support and accountability within that tribe to succeed. You know, I think a lot of people avoid being accountable. You know, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear of failure, embarrassment. What if I could be humiliated, this or that? Whereas you look at any successful person and their breakthrough moments have been those opportunities that they didn't know, but they gave it a go anyway. And so I suppose I do a lot of work in that space of, okay, well, what if it didn't work? What would you learn from it? Let's do some scenarios and we move from there. And by the end of, you know, within a few months, people are like, give me feedback. You know, it's just it's a really wonderful thing when you can accept other people's critique, and it's maybe good and maybe not, you know, but it's all in the pot. And I think people have real breakthroughs there when they stop self-protecting, which then often leads to self-sabotaging as well, to embracing opportunity and then just going with it and learning to laugh. You know, we need to laugh at ourselves a bit more, you know, which I do very easily, going, oh, that was a doozy, you know, but it's funny, right? What's the pressure? I think we are our worst enemies for sure.
100%. You said so many important things in there, and I think that's the key part, right? It's seeking clarity. What do I want? Why do I want it? What's my goal? What's my vision? So, and I'm speaking, I guess, a little bit about my own journey here, is that I got really clear a while ago what I wanted. So I knew where I was going, I knew the goals. So that's like the first step, right? But then what came up was all of the limiting beliefs, all of the things you spoke there about our childhood, you know, be quiet, Annie, stop talking, Annie, you know, all of these things that we're sort of told. And, you know, I wasn't a particularly confident girl in school. So all of these sort of, I guess, childhood traumas of being a bit bullied and stuff, they started to come up. And why don't anyone listen to me? What have I got to say? I'm not good at this and that and that. So what advice? So let's just say step one, done. We know what we want. We know where we're going. Tick. the next thing is then breaking through those limiting beliefs. How is there, like, in your experience and in your own life, how have you gone about doing that? Do you think that we ever overcome our limiting beliefs, or is it just a case of just constantly putting ourselves out of our comfort zone and just going for it?
Yeah, I think there's a few factors there. Definitely everybody can get themselves out of their limiting beliefs. It's actually about spending the time to invest in yourself to find out what they are. They're all patterns of behavior that if we say we're going to do something and then we don't. So, well, why didn't we? And then why didn't, if you ask yourself why at least 3 or 4 times in a row, you'll usually get to the source of a limiting belief, right? And so it will be, well, I wanted to, but I didn't because, and then I'll go and ask my clients, well, why? And they'll go, well, because I don't think I have the confidence, or I don't think I have enough money, or I don't think I'd be very good at it, or I think people would laugh at me, or whatever it is, and that anchored belief is really strong. That's your default in your subconscious mind, is like, 90% of the autopilot, right? And so that is really hard because when you don't have an awareness of it, because it will default and all of a sudden you'll say one thing and never get around to it. Our patterns of behavior have formed extremely strongly from our childhood. And so as opposed to start unpacking that, and that's where it's great being on a program, because we start calling that and finding out, okay, well, there's patterns of behavior, and I was away this weekend with a lady who just went, oh my gosh, someone once told me I was a perfectionist, and I said, of course I'm not. And then there were about 10 examples over the weekend of when she was saying things that demonstrated that she is still a perfectionist in her tendencies, which was really interesting. So it's actually getting called out and finding an awareness of that. And nothing in itself is bad, right? Most of them are just because you formed a belief at a critical time in your life, which is usually childhood, and then it probably got reinforced 2 or 3 times and you consolidated that, right? And so because of that, you just go, that's how I am, and your mind thinks that. But the more you then challenge the evidence of that, and the evidence proves that that's actually not a truth, you'll then start picking yourself up out of that habit and retraining the narrative of your mind. And so without getting too deep, that's where it's a lot about awareness. It's trying new things. I don't encourage people to leap out of their comfort zone. I think that's a bit like, going to a fun park and then flying off something. It actually terrifies people and they spend a lot of time in the panic. And so what I do is I encourage people just to extend that comfort zone. Let's just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. So we're a bit more of a stretch model, because you then get that, oh, okay, this feels big, but I'm it's just a bit more than I would have done myself, but I'll do it because you've got confidence in me, or the tribe are cheering me on, or whatever it is. And that's a wonderful model. I've found people just go in leaps and bounds more than those people who go, oh yeah, just, you've got to jump out of your comfort zone. And all I see, I do, that's my personal perspective, it's too much. That's why they didn't jump out of their comfort zone, because it's terrifying. And terror and fear are the worst sabotagers of your true potential. It's about building confidence, and it's about self-belief. And so, yeah, for me, it's about getting clarity, simplicity, and focus on what you want to do, and then go, okay, if that's what I want to do, what are all my stepping stones? And I'll just do a percentage every day, and I'll have consistency in successful habits, consistency in successful relationships, consistency in my stepping stones to my goals, that they do make sense, consistency on evaluating and modifying to make sure that I'm staying on track. All of these sort of patterns help you achieve your goals much quicker than sort of doing nothing and then suddenly leaping out and then coming back a bit wounded and generally a bit more fearful than they started off. So
yeah, I completely agree. And you said such an important word right there, which is consistency. It's almost like a compound effect, right? You start doing the smallest thing and it builds up over time. And it's such powerful advice. I mean, I decided I was really scared of public speaking, and I kind of threw myself into just doing a speech. And I remember like the week building up, I was I was losing sleep, and I just thought, why am I doing this to myself? And I did the speech, and look, it was okay. I could have definitely done better, but after that, I decided to go and do Toastmasters, and that was a much better way of just every week pulling myself out of my comfort zone, speaking in front of 10, 10, 20, 30 people and just talking for like 4 minutes in a safe environment. But the more I did it, the more confident I became. And then when I went to do another talk, I felt more confident on stage. So I would agree with you completely. I've tried both models, and definitely just sort of like building up gradually, I think, is really, really powerful advice. So look, I'd love to know like where this passion for helping women comes from, you know, like when did you just sort of decide that that's what you wanted to do? And when did you decide that that was your vision and your goal?
I think when it comes from my childhood, like most people's superpowers do come from wounds that they've had, I'd say. And so for me, I had two amazingly impressive grandmothers who were wonderful role models for me. However, in my childhood, they were big supporters, but my family model was very much, you know, you'll be a nurse or a secretary and you'll stay home and have babies, and a lot of negatives about my natural sort of tendencies, you know, to talk and to make things and be creative and so forth. So I had these blanket beliefs that, well, you won't do that. And I also had found that I did have lots of babies, but I juggled that with career. I had 2 sets of twins in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I had another bubby 6 years later. So I did have 5 children, but I did that around 3 degrees. And I as I navigated, you know, I'm older, obviously, as I navigated that time, I found that the women in that era were actually quite hard on other women coming through. They were so big on, you know, and that was it was a necessary time to be powerful trailblazers, but it was a little bit like, you know, well, seniority rules, I'll kick you out, you know, don't be my competitor. And I found that really sad, you know, because I've got a very compassionate heart, and I'm all into, well, women should be able to have opportunities and to really shine in their circumstance, and there's actually enough business for all. And we need to I realized at an early age that, you know, well, early 20s, that, you know, these things that I got told that I wasn't creative, I actually am very creative, you know, that I got told that talking too much was not a good thing and not ladylike. Whereas if you know, being a CEO of a business and running things, it's how you communicate, right? It's the way that you do it and the words that you use. And so I found quite a number of my earlier roles where I was disappointed in women, and rather than go, oh, that's not good, I actually went, you know, this is an opportunity. When I have the right time in life, I actually want to empower women. Wouldn't it be great if they had women ahead of them? So it was probably what I missed, I wanted. Now I go, oh, I can be that to other women, you know, and there's so much that you learn through your 50 years of business and life and juggling 5 children, including 4 in 2 years, and doing degrees and running families and sport and businesses and bits and pieces, that there's so much that I've learned, and I'm really happy to share that. I don't see myself as a competitor for someone, even if they're in that same space. I go, okay, well, let's learn off each other, because you actually want to be so unique or into your space that it's good enough on its own. You don't have to see someone else as your competitor constantly. And that's why I love the tribe. That's why I've created the tribe, that I go, it's not just me, it's all these other women, and they're all really different. And difference is wonderful. You know, I sit on boards, and when you're on a board, what do you want? You want diversity, you know, from gender, from ethnicity, different mindsets. And that's a wonderful thing. The more that we actually get appreciation of different ways people think about things, feel, respond, whether it's leadership, business management, personally, there's so many opportunities, and particularly because my passion is women, to actually go, yeah, you go, girl. You know, if you've got that on your heart, oh my gosh, anything is possible. And I, you know, I showed that. You know, I don't think I'm at all a superwoman, but I definitely went from, you know, starting as a nurse, because that's what my family sort of made me do, and then I went from nursing head teacher to then doing Masters of Education. I became a national education manager with the orthopedic surgeons for a few years, and then I did business, and then made my way to a CEO. And so I look at my journey, a lot of people go, how did you do that? You know, and that's where it is. It's actually saying vision. I had this little voice in my head when I was like 16, 17 going, I'm sure I'd be a really good businesswoman, right? You know, I think I'd be great at organizing things. I'd love to boss people around. But in that funny way of going, I feel like I have these skills, even though I'm told I don't have them, and we get harsh words said to us. My dad, who was my total rock, he went and said to me, you don't have the capacity to be a businesswoman because you don't have a finance head. I love those blanket statements. And I went, oh, and my view at that time was, isn't that a shame that I don't have the capacity? Because I believed it as a truth. And then it took me years and years as I did these stepping stones. And then when I said, well, I think I do have the capacity. What if they were wrong? So that what if curious nature allowed me, thankfully, to actually go, well, I'll give it a go, and serious imposter syndrome kicking in there. And then suddenly you go, well, I can do it, and if I need to learn it, I will learn it. And that's been my journey, to then, becoming CEO, starting my own business, helping other businesses set up, because of the curious nature and having belief that you can, if you really want something, will make it happen, even if it's in the most unusual of ways, So, that's worked for me.
Yeah, I think, wow, it's so inspiring. And I'm with you 100%. I really do think that there is abundance for all. I just think if we come from this abundant mindset, like, we'll attract more of it. Whereas we come from this fear mindset, oh, there's not enough, and see everybody as competition. Like, I just think we're attracting that. I think we're just we've got to constantly give off this good energy. And, I honestly believe in collaboration over competition. I think if you can collaborate and if you can bring other people up with you, why would you not do that? And I guess it's part of the reason why I love this podcast so much, because I get to speak to so many incredible minds and learn from incredible women, men, business owners, just all sorts of leaders. It's incredible. But you really are superwoman. Like, I completely take my hat off to you. So I want to talk to you now, because you've had children, you've grown businesses, and I'm sort of sitting here going, wow, how have you done it? And the reason I ask that is because I still think there is this little bit of I don't want to use the word stigma, but this feeling I get sometimes when some people go, oh, you've got to choose. You can't be both. You can't be a fantastic parent and a fantastic business owner. And I do feel that sometimes as a woman. I get asked, oh, are you having children? Or probably not, because you're quite ambitious and you want to grow a business. I'm like, well, hold on a second. So I'd love to, hear your thoughts and views on that.
I've had all of that. I've been interviewed. I've gone into an interview where, 15, 20 men just sitting there around a table, and I'm looking at, and as I walked in the door, I'm just seeing this view of, who's looking after her children or whatever. I even had, when I was nursing, when I went for a nursing head teacher job, I actually had a lady at the interview said, if you were successful, how are you going to manage with all of your children? And this is only 15, 17 years ago. And you kind of go, wow, I don't think you'd be asking my husband that. I don't, obviously if I'm putting myself out. So there is a lot of, in the early years, a lot of mummy guilt for me and a lot of, and other people's judgment, like, oh my gosh, you're such a career woman, and then you the next little bit is, how are the kids coping? They'll use it in a word that's a negative word. And so, my view is you can, we all have choices how we use our 24 hours of time, right? And so it's up to us to therefore, that collaborative model. Okay, well, if I mind your kids at a certain time, can you look after mine while I go, somewhere else? Definitely, hubby and I, we've been very blessed over our 33 years of marriage to actually always have seen ourselves as a team, and being able to juggle our view is that we want to bring out the best in each other. And so how can we help each other do that? And so that's been juggling hours, juggling opportunities. We've never had that view of, that old fashioned view of, a win-win. You go for a win-win, or otherwise you go for a compromise. We've actually never had that view. We actually go, win-win's great, but it happens very occasionally. We actually have had a model of win-lose and lose-win, because we know each other so well. We love each other. We want to support each other. And so when it's something of incredible value, I'd go and say to James, this is so important for you in your career. You should go for that and I'll support you. I don't need the win every time, or he'd do the same for me. Annie, you're going for this role. We're going to have to really support you to make sure that happens, which is really great, because if we compromise, neither of us would be satisfied. And the win-win is actually very hard to sustain and virtually impossible, occasionally happens. So it's been a really interesting model that worked for us early. And I've begged, borrowed, I haven't stolen, but I've tried to collaborate, that collaborative model. But I had to do that because I had twins at 23 and twins at 25, and then I'd already become a nurse. But then I'm like going, oh my gosh, it might have been my baby brain was just exploding, but I got this crazy idea. I'm going to go off and do a master's degree in education. And for me, actually, it was a break. I got to go to uni 2 nights a week. It was the best time ever. I'm like, oh wow, when you're a young mum, you can hardly go to the bathroom by yourself. And so that was really fantastic. But to actually make things happen. This is where when we were talking at the beginning, ask for what you really want rather than what you think you'll get. So in that situation, I could have easily gone and said, oh, okay, well, that's right. I've got to be at home. I've got to be doing this. But, I showed that you can make it happen. I went and said, okay, well, who could be there at a certain time till James got home so I could get to uni, so I could do these things, because I think if I did this qualification, I could get to this next level. Because I always had my vision board of, if my dream was that I could be a businesswoman, I don't know how that can work. I remember sitting there at like 25 and I had 4 babies everywhere, and and I'm like going, okay, well, that's definitely not likely to happen, my dream of being a businesswoman, but stepping stones. So I went, okay, well, if I'm a nurse and then I do a master's degree, then I could be a manager. I could start getting management qualifications, and then after a manager I could then get business qualifications. So I had this, can I do it really quickly? No, it took me 15 years, but it was always a stepping stone. And then by actually going, I'm going to enroll in the course, and it was a bit of a Richard Branson sort of moment of do it and find out the details later. I've been pretty good at that. So just do it and go, right, okay, mum's enrolled in uni again, who's going to help? And then, and people do, so I suppose my biggest learning is to be bold, back yourself, and to make it happen. Saying that, it's also really hard. If you want the overnight success, it's not going to happen, and even people who do my program, I go, I'm not a quick fix. It's going to take, commit for 6 to 12 months in the program. Be really prepared to do some hard work. If those people who say people are lucky, they're incredibly lucky because they work their asses off, right? Yeah. And they're prepared to fail, and they'll try new things, and they'll just like, wow, where there's a way, they'll bend, they'll shift, they'll pivot, they'll navigate, they'll never say die, because they're focused on the dream, and so it's a lot of hard work. Yeah, but it is possible.
Yeah. And I think that's very, very refreshing and very important to hear, because we do live in a society, in a world where it is very instant gratification. And I do think that's probably been brought on by a lot of social media, and keeping up with the Joneses, and, oh, it's all right for them. Look at them. They're so lucky. But actually, it is. It's the 10 years overnight success, right? And you said you took 15 years, but you had your vision. You knew where you wanted to go, and you just kept on moving forward. And I think that's key, right? Is that it doesn't matter how small the steps are, as long as you feel like you're growing and you're progressing and you're learning, that's all that matters, right? Like, you just got to trust the process. And I guess one of my biggest lessons as well is every time I've tried to force something and I've wanted to be somewhere quicker, or I've got, I should be here but I'm here, the pain and the suffering that I put on myself, was unbearable almost some days. And I just beat myself up. And, it wasn't until I actually took a breath and went, okay, I'm now just trusting the process, I'm in flow, that life just started to move. Do you find that? Do you find like sometimes we can be so almost forceful, and like we're being busy for being busy's sake. And then it's not until we take a breath and go, what is actually, what do I need? What's the one thing I can do today that's going to make the biggest difference, rather than try and do everything? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, I think you've nailed that. I've had that moment so many times. Back in the earlier days, I remember just sobbing my little eyes out, in the lounge room, going, I just thought I had more potential, and I wish I could do this. And I met this other person, and she was just like so amazing, and all this rubbish, right? Yeah. And you kind of go, now I look back going, oh my gosh, Annie, you had like 4 kids under this age, and like it was totally ridiculous, right? What the shift happened, and getting in the flow, was when I actually realized, okay, well, if I dare to dream that my goal of being a businesswoman and empowering women is possible, Now, one thing I do need to share with you is that I didn't know what that job was. I didn't know I was going to be the CEO of charities and running this magic transformation program and having my own consultancy business. Not many people think that they have to have the end result. You don't have to have it detailed. What is most important is that you have the reason of why you want it and what it would give you, what it would feel like, right? I'm more into the feeling of success rather than the actual position, my dream goal would actually be like CEO of World Expedition, so I could just travel the world or something, like we've always got a little something or other, but it doesn't have to be that, but the result is you're in a position that can use all of those skills and attributes and allow you to do what you want to do. So I think my shift happened when I actually realized I was going to believe in that, and then having those small steps. And then that allowed me to realize time was going to be involved. Be kind to yourself and realize how much time it's not a competition. My situation is different to someone with 2 kids or no kids, or even the person with no kids might actually be, having other challenges that people have got no idea about. We've all got significant things happening under the surface. And so there's no judgment with that. It's not a competition, but things do take time. So I think it's getting a reality check on what do we want to achieve and how long will that take. Once you've got that, it's actually like, okay, I'm on a program, right? The program of life. And then that allows you to enjoy the moments, and that allowed me to suddenly go, okay, I'm in this season. I do want to enjoy my kids at this season. I do want to enjoy the stepping stones of getting this job. I can't be the boss straight away. I'm not going to be angry about that. I'm not going to be resentful that this person above me is hopeless. How did they get the job? I'm actually going to say, no, I'm skill building, I'm networking, I'm making. So my mindset shifted. I also concentrated on what we talked about, those daily success measures. The more you practice successful techniques, it's the more efficient you get at them. So it's easier. It's like riding a bike, right? Or like my kids learning to drive a car. It's exhausting with them learning. And then suddenly you drive, you don't even think about it. Well, a lot of, therefore, business and life, when they look at, you were very kind to me. And so, but those women who make it look really easy, because they've got to a stage that they've practiced those habits day in, day out. They know, I approach the day and I go, right, what's the thing I know that I'll procrastinate on at 5:00 this afternoon? I'm going to do it straight away. What can I bow a bird into? What little tips and tricks have I got? And we've all got them because of our experience, because we know what works, we know ourselves, we know the time frame, the priorities. There's so much that we've actually adjusted because of our experience, and it takes years to acquire that. And also, just because I do it one way doesn't mean someone else will. It's what I coach one lady who was just terror. She said, I can't get anything done before 10 o'clock. And then she was saying, and then by the end of the day, I can't take my dog for a walk. And she's got a home business. I go, start work at 10. You're the boss, use your time. So I see time, the way I juggle 24 hours, I actually, I will make it flexible for what I want to achieve. And sometimes it doesn't look rational for someone else. Like last night I had a podcast from 11 till 12:30 because the lady's in Argentina, but I loved it, right? I love, that I'm doing things that I love. So I'll have a little nap and I'll do things, and other people go, oh my gosh, you never sleep, you never do this. But I'm actually, that's part of my dream. That's my future things that I'm trying to still create of, becoming a global speaker on leadership and women's affairs. And, at the moment I've got quite into the position on domestic violence, because part of becoming Annie has come from childhood assault that I suffered. And so a whole new piece that I'm growing in, and I'm getting into new spheres. And so that requires even, putting yourself out, like I'm saying, people work hard. Even at my stage, I go, okay, well, if I'm wanting to get into a new area, I now have to work hard getting into new networks and growing that, because I want to add that to my portfolio of things that I'm passionate about. So you don't have to do all things at the same time. Just do it and then grow it and grow it and grow it.
Yeah. I think that's just such powerful advice. And I also just think as well, like, this is the thing, I guess, what people do, because it all goes back to that comparison piece. It's like, you know, they think that they've got to grow this big 7-figure business, right? But you could just work out what number it is for you, right? If you just want to have a little bit of a business that earns you a bit of money on the side, you don't need to work these long hours, you know, like you can start work at 10, you finish at 3, go to the beach, you know, like I think it's also really getting clear of like designing the life that you want, you know, and then not being a prisoner to your business, because, you know, like you just said it beautifully there. You want to be a global speaker, right? So yeah, there's things that you're going to have to do in order to get to that point, and you're going to have to put in the couple of later nights. But somebody like myself who doesn't necessarily want to be a global speaker, no, I don't need to record at 11:30. And that's the thing, it's not comparing yourself. It's not going, Annie's doing a podcast at 11:30, I need to do a podcast at 11:30 to be successful. It's like, no, work out what success means to you, work out what you want, what kind of lifestyle you want, and then design your life accordingly, design your business and your life to suit you. You know, I think that was probably the biggest realization and wake up call I had. I thought, I want to build this big business and 7 big figures. I'm like, but do I? What's more important to me?
Exactly.
Is it lifestyle? Is it being to go to the beach in the morning and starting work when I want to start work and finishing work when I want to start work? And I think that's the biggest piece that where I see people go wrong, is they become almost prisoners to these big goals, and they, like you said beautifully earlier, they forget the journey. They're not present. They're not enjoying it because they're working towards these big goals and they're not enjoying the here and now.
And then you're always striving.
Correct.
You're always going, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when. And the kids have been born and raised and gone, and they're all like, and it's kind of like, when do you stop to celebrate, right?
Correct.
Like I just went away with my magic tribe on the weekend. It's like, I'll celebrate everything. I'm like the biggest, like, man, you can pop up a champagne bottle for any achievement, because they're all significant moments that are on the stepping stones to their future success. And it's really good to actually know what those steps will be and when they happen, to celebrate them. You know, and also if you got to them and you weren't that excited, well, that's the time to reassess. Am I on the right path? You know, so there's always that opportunity. Whereas that's right, there's plenty of people I've worked with and they're on this journey and have been for, like, I'm talking 2 decades, and they go, I'd never even liked it when I started. And you go, what are you killing yourself, right? Like, don't be a chartered accountant if you don't want to work in a room and fiddle with numbers all day. You know, like, it's like, fine. So that's one of the reasons when I design magic transformation of the personal and the professional, you know, I automatically then subtracted the professional and go, I'll just do the professional. Well, man, the personal ends up being such a strong influence on the professional, because once you unpack, what salary am I expecting? What lifestyle requirements? What's my, you know, if my life well, how much do I love the flexibility? Do I want to travel? Do I want to, you know, what are my hobbies? What are my friends? What are my, you know, family life? Am I, you know, at a different season? You know, I mean, I've just become a nana 2 years ago. I've got a granddaughter.
Congratulations.
So absolutely gorgeous, loving her. But then suddenly goes, oh, okay, well, this is beautiful for our family. And I actually love that. I want to spend that time. But when you have time one space, you have to then take time away from something else. So you've got to know, therefore, well, what would it be? What's the weakest link, and how can you outsource? Because we're all juggling time, right, at the end of the day. And so, it's really important to celebrate all of those wins, and that stops being frustrated and always envying. I think envy, looking at someone else's situation, is a really hard habit. You know, it's a bad habit to get into. It's understandable, but the more you have clarity around what you're wanting to achieve, even if you realize, gee, this is going to be a big journey, you know, then you'll get there in the end. I remember when we had the 2 sets of twins, and then I had so many people go, oh my gosh, your life's going to be hell when they're teenagers, things like that. And I'm like going, it's already pretty full on with babies everywhere. Anyway, and so I had this, once again, another Annie dream of going, okay, James, we're going to do this crazy dream. We're going to take 4 teenagers to Europe. We're going to be one of those families that go and have this mega holiday and take the kids away, and it'll make them be good their whole childhood. Like, everything went into this Europe fund, right? So every little job, they were all participating. And then anyway, when 10 years later, we did have another child in tow. We all went off, like the Von Trapps, we're off, you know, on this amazing, and we went for 7 weeks and we did home exchanges and we did it on a budget. and it still is one of the most amazing things that I ever did in their childhood, because we pulled this ridiculously crazy thing together, and it was funny, and things went wrong and things went better than expected, and life happened, right? But we looked forward to something. We realized we weren't like the family next door who went to Fiji every year, right? So it's easy to go, oh, I've got all these kids everywhere and now I can't do what other people are doing. And you notice it. But then when you go, okay, well, that's not my situation. What is a crazy, for me, wacky idea, and let's just do it and make it happen. And, and we did, and it was great, so a bit like my career journey.
That's what life's all about, right? Like, it's about experiences. It's about memories. I just think that's just such a beautiful way just to round up the conversation. So Annie, I have loved speaking to you today, and I would encourage everybody to go and read your book, because I'm sure that you've got so many beautiful life lessons, and just from your experience and what you've been through and what you've created, I think it's absolutely incredible. So if people do want to reach out to you, find out more about you, get coaching from you, where should they go to find you?
They should go to anniegibbins.com. So Gibbins has got an INS. So anniegibbins.com, and there you'll find about me. You'll be able to get a link to my magic transformation. You'll also get a link to my biography. I look forward to it. I've also got some freebies on my website too. So some stuff on mindset and affirmations and self-care. So come and get yourself some free gifts, and make contact. I'd love to chat to you.
Perfect. We'll put all the links on the podcast as well. So Annie, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the book. I am excited to read it. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks so much.
See you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Mind to Lead podcast. I really hope you got some great takeaways and key learnings from this episode. To help us spread the message, please give us a rating and leave us a review. We love reading your thoughts and your insights and your learnings. And look, reach out to me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Georgie Hubbard. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Georgie L. Hubbard. Let's connect. I hope you have an incredible day, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.